I'd rather it be February. Not that it will matter much to me. And not that I'm a stickler for details. Type A? Me? Heck no. But since you're asking, I would rather it be February. I want it cold. I want the gray to inhabit the air as wood does trees, as an essence and not just a coincidence. And the hope of spring dulled to a stump by the winter in Cleveland. Yes, February. With the cold in front of you and the cold behind you and the stubbornness at the edges of the day and a wind chill to make that cold even more bitter, so that ever after it might be known that the day of my funeral was a sad, cold day in February. Let me take a moment to explain. This is Tract by Thomas Lynch, written by funeral director Thomas Lynch, performed by myself, Justin ZABOR, also a funeral director, for a friend of mine that has recently passed, the late, great, now, Todd Van Beck. Now, anyone who's in the funeral profession certainly knows this great man. He was a legend in our profession, but for those of you who don't know him, he was an American treasure and America's funeral director, a rock star in our profession, an author, a speaker, an educator. He did it all. Look him up on any social media platform. Any search will pull him up. So do your due diligence and find out who he was. But for those of us who were funeral directors and speakers, he was the end-all be-all. And for myself, a young funeral director who started over 20 years ago, it was inevitable that I look him up when I first started speaking and going on the national circuit for funeral service. So I did. I looked him up as far back as 2006. And I think it was the ICCFA convention in Vegas that year. And I called him up. We were sharing the platform together, and I asked him to share a cup of coffee with me and impart some of his knowledge and wisdom to a young funeral director and speaker. And he said in his voice, I'll do my best, he said, Justin, no one can ever disagree with you if you talk about your passion for funeral service. No matter what your topic is, as long as you come back to the passion, you will always be appreciated. The love of our great profession shines through. Just like a father or a grandfather. And you know what? I never forgot that. I never forgot those words. So fast forward, coming full circle, it was only a couple weeks ago, less than a month ago, that I was speaking at the Ohio Funeral Directors State Convention. And Todd ends up showing up halfway through my presentation. I noticed him. And he ended up asking a question coming up after the presentation, telling me how much he enjoyed it, paying an honest compliment. And it planted a seed in my mind that I wanted to follow up with him and talk about speaking, about life, and about the profession. I never had that opportunity, so I'm taking it now. We never got the chance to speak, but I thought this literature, this fine literature by funeral director Thomas Lynch, performed by a speaker, by myself, humbly following in the tracks of Todd Van Beck, might do a little bit of justice in paying him tribute to his family, to his friends, and to all the funeral directors. There will be a funeral in a couple days for this great man, and funerals for funeral directors, great funerals for great funeral directors, don't happen that often. So only maybe people in our profession might appreciate this as much as we do. A funeral director talking about his own funeral. For Todd, and all his family and friends, and for the repose of his soul, I present to you Tract by Thomas Lynch. I want a mess made in the snow so that the earth looks wounded, forced open, an unwilling participant. Forego the tent, stand openly to the weather, and don't dodge it because of the weather. We have fished and watched Browns football in worse. Don't worry, it won't take long. Go to that hole in the ground, stand over it, look into it, wonder, and be cold. Stay until it's done. Stay until it's over, and not a minute sooner. Afterwards, and after the words are finished, lower it, push in the dirt, and be done. Stamp your feet in the cold. Watch each other's ankles. Let your heads sink beneath your shoulders and keep looking down, because that's where what is happening is happening. And when you're done, look up and leave. After all, the dead can't tell the living what to feel. The dead can't tell the living how to feel. So whatever there is left to feel, feel it. The dull ache of your own mortality. Go home in pairs. Warm to the flesh that warms yours still. Go with someone you can trust with your tears, and you can trust with utter silence. Get that part done. The sooner the better. Because the only way around these things is straight through them. Not right, sure as heck, not left. Just straight through them. Not up, not down. Through. Wake me, as in have a visitation for me. Don't you dare forget that part. Because it's useful. And if someone happens to say, oh, doesn't he look natural? Take no offense. They've got it right. For I do look natural. This death was always in my nature. And it's in yours too. It is natural. Have the clergy take their best shot. If they're ever going to make sense to you, now is the time. They're searching. Same as you. Same as me. Same as the rest of us. Searching for the answers to life's big questions. So be wary of anyone who says they know exactly what to say. Be wary of anyone who says that they know all of the answers. Because guess what? They don't. I don't. You don't. No one really does. And on the subject of money, well, guess what? You get what you pay for. So deal with someone whose instincts you trust. It's here where the services of an experienced undertaker are most appreciated. They're accustomed to being persona non grata, and we will act the worthy directors. So if anyone tells you, oh, you spent too little, tell them to go piss up a rope. And if anyone says, oh, you spent too much, tell them to go piss up a rope as well. It's none of their business how much money you spent. It's your money. Do what you want with it. But let me make one thing perfectly clear. You know the type who always saying, when I'm dead, spend your money and go spend it on something that's really useful. Go spend it on a really cheap, direct cremation. Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? I am not one of them. Never was. Don't understand the modern philosophy of cheaper is better and less is more. I've always come from the camp that thought funerals were useful. A little upgrade in the pomp and circumstance is money well spent, as far as I'm concerned. Because in my humble opinion, even the priciest funeral is a bargain. So, if you opt for cremation and burning, if you really want to go up the stack, Jack, then perhaps you should know exactly what you're getting yourself into. And if you can't watch, then perhaps you should reconsider. But at the very least, you should bury the ashes, the cinders, the bones, the bits of the box that did not burn. Put them in something. Mark the spot. Feed the hungry and feed them well. It's good form. And it is useful. After all, this business works up an appetite. Eat, yes, but don't drink and be merry. Rather, just be sober. You know the part where everyone's always saying that you should have a party? How the dead guy always said that he wanted everybody to have a great time and toss a few back? Well, guess what? Again, sorry to rain on your parade, but I am not one of them. I think this time the good book got it right. That there is a time to eat, drink, and be merry, but this just might not be one of them. Eat, yes, but don't drink and be merry. Rather, be stone cold sober. After all, it's good form. And it is really useful in this situation. I know. I'm sorry. I really shouldn't be going on like this. Again, it is none of my business because I won't be there. After all, remember, the dead can't tell the living how to feel. But the truth is that I've had this problem my whole life. The problem of directing funerals. But you know what? Now, it's not my funeral anymore. It's your funeral to direct once I'm gone. On the subject of pallbearers, I believe what the old joke said, that by the end of your life, you better have at least 6, family and friends. I want my darling son, Owen, and my loyal daughter, Ava, to be pallbearers at my funeral. And any grandsons and granddaughters, God willing, if I have them. This is a job for which men and women may be needed. So work together on this one. It'll lighten the load. The larger muscles should be involved, the ones we use for the real burdens. So if men and their muscles are better at lifting the pall, then women certainly are better at bearing it. Look to my beautiful bride, Beth, for the best example. She is the most selfless person I know. She is beautiful, inside and out. She is kind. And she has the shoulders best equipped for shouldering this type of load. She will be fine in the end. And so will you. Go now. It is done. It is finished. I guess all I ever really wanted as a man, as a funeral director, was a witness up there and a few down here, to witness my Lord and Savior say, "Well done, good and faithful servant." And a witness right here. To say that I was, and maybe, just maybe, I still am. A witness to say, but only if they ask you, that it was a sad, cold day after all, in February. Rest in peace, Todd. Rest in power. Godspeed. And until we meet again.